I told y'all when it comes to the Bed Bucket Hall of Shame series, anybody can get into it. I know some people were shocked when I threw LeBron James in it. Some of you probably weren't, but it is what it is. We hold no punches over here. Someone deserves to be in it. They have a reason as to why I put them in there. And unfortunately, we have to enter Chris Brown into the Bed Bucket Hall of Shame. And you're probably wondering to yourself, why is Chris Brown going in there, since a lot of the videos I've done on him were defending him? And that is true. Most of the videos, if you go back and look at my archives of videos that I've done on Chris Brown, is a lot of times where I was defending him against, certain entities within the industry. But this one right here, I simply cannot defend. So the Grammys was hosted on Sunday, February 5th, 2023. I, like many of you, did not watch it. It is what it is. Any news we heard about it, we heard about after the fact, including the one I'm about to talk to you about right now, where Chris Brown was nominated for Best R&B Album. And I'll admit, his album, Breezy, was a pretty good album. It's a couple of songs. I don't think I like every song on the album, but there were a few songs on there that I did like. But he was in a category with a few people that he knew. But there was one person in the category he was with that he did not know. And that was the person who won, by the name of Robert Glasper. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not too familiar with Robert Glasper, but based on the resume that I have seen of his, he's been around for a while. More so probably working with other artists before probably releasing his own material. And he ended up winning. As a matter of fact, I think he was probably the more lesser known person in the category compared to the people that were in there. And Chris Brown, when he got wind of who won, considering that Chris Brown's album really did good as far as sales go, he literally went on a tirade by saying who the F is Robert Glasper, and pretty much mocking his win. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, Chris Brown, like, why would you do that? A lot of people have went to bat for you on a lot of occasions where some people wouldn't even do so. And you chose at this point to go and attack another black man, might I add, because you didn't know who he was and he won. The least that Chris Brown could have did was just congratulate the man on the win. And then if he didn't know who he was, a simple Google search would have told you who he was. And maybe possibly you could have worked with him in the future, maybe as a collab, and then find out why he won in that category. Now, the crazy part about it is Chris Brown has been nominated in this category, well, so many times, but I think he only won in this category one time. But he's been nominated numerous other times over the years. And I believe this Robert Glasper guy, and like I said, I'm going to read the article and it's probably going to break this down, has been nominated for various categories. And I think he actually has more Grammys than Chris Brown. So even if Chris Brown doesn't know who this guy is, he could have took the time out to research who he was, and then he would have been able to find out who this Robert Glasper guy is and possibly collab with him in the future. By him mocking him the way that he did, he might have burned a bridge. And this is not also not a good look for Chris Brown, for the simple fact that he is already on thin ice with the industry anyway, because they still hold that Rihanna's incident over his head from years ago, which, by the way, that incident happened after the Grammys. So, they're going to find something else to stick to him. And this time he brought it on himself. He can't say that someone else did something to him and they blew it out of proportion. No, they're going to hang this over him. They're already calling him a sore loser, which is exactly what he sounds like. Now I'm going to go ahead and read the article. I just had to give that preface. Billy Crystal joked about being a sore loser at the 2023 Grammys, but Chris Brown gave a masterclass on the topic. After losing the Best R&B Album category to Robert Glasper on Sunday night, Brown let loose about the results. "Bro, who the F is this?" Brown wrote on Instagram alongside a screenshot of Glasper, according to TMZ. In another post, Brown wrote, y'all playing who the F is this? And in a third, he reposted a January 30th Instagram post by Glasper himself, one reading, "Who the F is Robert Glasper?" So it wasn't enough that he did one post. He did three of them. One wasn't enough. Like, this sounds very childish. Mind you, Chris Brown and myself are the same age. We're both in our early 30s. And the way that he's carrying on right now, he sounds like he's 13. Then Brown said he has got to get his skills up and starts playing the harmonica, and he later shared a photo of himself playing the harmonica, writing "New Level Unlocked Harmonica Breezy." Glasper won the Best R&B Album Grammy on Sunday for his album Black Radio 3, which featured appearances by Jennifer Hudson, India Arie, Ty Dolla $ign, and Her. The 44-year-old now has 5 Grammys to his name, including his 2013 win in the same category for the first Black radio installment. Brown, meanwhile, was nominated this year for his album Breezy Deluxe. The 33-year-old has won 1 Grammy so far, taking home the Best R&B Album in 2012 for Fame. The other artists nominated in the category on Sunday night were Mary J. Blige for Good Morning Gorgeous, Lucky Day for Candy Drip, and PJ Morton for Watch the Sun. Now, see, those names that you heard right there, PJ Morton, Mary J. Blige, and Lucky Day, Chris Brown knows who these people are because he's probably either met them or worked with them. So he feels like by losing to a person he doesn't know, is like he feels like it's a slap in the face to himself. In other words, it's almost sounding like Chris Brown is saying this guy's beneath me. It comes all very elitist. Now, Chris Brown, you have to be very careful because remember last year you wanted to do that tribute to Michael Jackson on the American Music Awards, and we went to bat for you, and even Kelly Rowland spoke up for you on that stage about saying how you are one of the most talented people, and you won an award for that. I forgot for what category. It was an R&B category. You do not want to blackball yourself any more than you've already been blackballed, because they'll do it. They'll pull the plug on you again. They have no problem doing that. That's why I said he needed to be very careful. It's not like he was in a spot where he could make this kind of comment that he could easily just bounce back from. You know, they will find any type of way to attack this man, and he has to know this. Again, when he tried to do that tribute to Michael Jackson last year, they canceled it at the last minute due to some issues. I'm gonna just leave it right there. We wanted to see it, and I even went online and looked at the rehearsal and said, oh, this would have been dope. Just imagine if they were in full costume and had all the spectacles and everything behind it. And I think Sierra was supposed to be a part of it too. That would have been so dope. But then he comes out and he says this, like, now would be the time to want to know who this guy is. You didn't have to say who the F is he and then post it 3 times. You could have just researched who this man was and see who he worked with, because he has a very interesting resume and he has more Grammys than you. Not that that means anything by any measure, because awards should not define you. It's the work and the talent. But at the end of the day, the awards will help you in that industry for people saying, oh, I could work with him because it looks good on my resume. I work with Grammy Award winning artist so-and-so. They helped me write this song. They collab with me on this song, or they help produce this song. So it looks good on that person to say that they've worked with a person who's trophied up. On Twitter, many users are siding with Glasper. Chris Brown not knowing who Robert Glasper is the reason all of Chris Brown's songs sound the same. One person tweeted on Sunday, instead of Chris Brown being nasty in his Instagram stories towards Robert Glasper, he needs to be trying to set up a studio session with him, but I digress. Another person wrote on Twitter. And journalist Garrett Kennedy tweeted, the funniest thing about Chris Brown's Grammy meltdown is also the saddest. Robert Glasper is an icon, and this is an award voted on by your peers. You can dislike the outcome, but posting about not knowing who he is only embarrasses you as an artist. Now, that part about the peers is very interesting. So if this was voted on by his peers, I'm guessing that's the people that were in the category with him, or maybe some other people. Like, this wasn't like a committee thing. And the fact that he got outvoted says something. So you may have had a lot of record sales for this album, which I'm sure he did, but this person's music hit different. And then on top of that, Robert Glasper, he's probably not even fazed by this, because guess what Chris Brown ended up doing? He gave Robert Glasper free promo. So people who didn't know who Robert Glasper was on Sunday night when he got up on that stage and accepted his Best R&B Album Award Grammy, they know who he is now. Thanks to Chris Brown. Now what's going to end up happening is people are going to go find his music and listen to the album in which he won for to see what his music sounds like. And then they might go deep dive into the archives of his other albums that he has, as well as look at the collabs that he's did with other artists. So Robert Glasper doesn't even have to clap back at Chris Brown, because Chris Brown actually did him a favor. And now, Chris Brown is going to look like a sore loser. So Yeah, it's the only person who's really benefiting off of this right now is this guy. I had to insert this picture right here because I wanted to do a little bit of Grammy history since, you know, I brought up Michael Jackson and Chris Brown looked at Michael Jackson as an idol, and Michael Jackson pretty much knighted, if you want to call it that, Chris Brown back in the day, saying he was the next big thing. If y'all remember, now this actually happened a year before I was born, in 1988. Michael Jackson was nominated for a plethora of awards for Grammys, as far as, you know, as Grammys go, for the Bad Album. As we all know, the Bad Album, the follow-up to Thriller, and, you know, a good solid third, well, adult solo album, I should say. And he did not win one Grammy that night. The only time Michael Jackson, as far as I know, went on that stage was to perform The Way You Make Me Feel and Man in the Mirror. And that is such an iconic Grammy performance. If y'all have not watched it, I suggest that you do. This man was so upset with the Grammys. He said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and perform over my time. And when the music cuts off, I'm going to still continue to sing. If y'all notice in the performance, if you all watched it, or if you haven't, he's singing into a live mic the whole time. But then you can tell at some point they cut his mic. So he's literally yelling out the lyrics and ad libs to the point where his voice is literally bouncing off the walls and the entire auditorium can hear him. Like, I'm just saying, like, go and listen to that performance. But I said all this to say this to Chris Brown. Imagine if Michael Jackson had said something to one of these blogs or one of these reporters back in the 80s, because they didn't have social media back then. But imagine if he said, who the F is this person that won in this category? I'm Michael Jackson. I'm the biggest entertainer in the world right now. Who's touching me? And would just had a big ego about himself. Where would Michael Jackson be right now? Even if he felt he was deserving of those awards. And honestly, I think he definitely was. And I think the reason why they did what they did is because he had won so many Grammys for Thriller years prior and they didn't want to repeat. But if you notice, ever since that night, the Grammys ain't been disrespectful to Michael Jackson since, because I'm almost certain his fans was about to riot. That Grammy committee probably got so many hate letters that following day and so many calls about what happened. But the fact of the matter is, Michael Jackson remained humble. And at the end of the day, I couldn't even tell you who won in those categories that he was nominated in that he lost. But we do remember who this guy is. So, I mean, I just say all of that to say that Chris Brown, he definitely needs to humble himself after that stunt he pulled.